You know, it's one of the most common cliches in boxing, that the sport is all about levels. I look at Peter Quillin and I see a really, really underrated fighter. I see a guy who genuinely is towards the top of the division. Gennady Golovkin, clearly the number one middleweight based on what he's achieved at the weight, clearly. Take him out of the equation, I find it hard to mount a strong argument there's a single person in the division who has what Peter Quillin has. Quillin, for me, is one of the most underrated punchers in the sport. You know, we are a sport where the fans typically obsess over punching power and gravitate towards any fighter who shows they can hit hard. For me, Peter Quillin, I mean, his knockout ratio, his knockdown ratio, certainly, I think there's only been like 1 or 2 fights he's been in where he hasn't actually knocked down his opponent. You know, the guy hits very, very hard, but combines that with real high-level boxing capability. You know, what Peter Quillin isn't is necessarily a fast and furious fighter. You know, he's not someone who's necessarily going to get on the inside and rip out combinations of 10 hooks left, right, you know. But this guy is a guy who throws some beautiful punches. I mean, if you look at the 2 shots that knocked Andy Lee down in their previous fight, they were textbook. You know, the guy can box long, he's very big at the weight, he's very big at the weight, and he, you know, has real power. And people question his heart, people question his chin, but let's be honest, Andy Lee, who's known as a big puncher, dropped him heavily, and he got on. He saw out the 12 rounds. That fight was ruled a draw. I personally scored it to Peter Quillin. I thought Quillin did enough to win. I thought the 2 early knockdowns swayed it his way. And that night, he was in a bad conditioning, you know. He'd failed to make the weight properly. I think he'd come in heavy. He clearly wasn't right. Yeah, I look at Peter Quillin now, and I look at the shape he's been in coming up to fight week. I look at I follow him on social media, and I look at some of the photos he's posted, and he's clearly in superb nick. You know, people forget he actually had a fight more recently, the Andy Lee fight, when he made £160. So I don't really see £160 as an issue for this fight. I think Quillin can make £160 if he shows his devotion to the sport. That wasn't there ahead of the Andy Lee fight. It's there now. You know, Daniel Jacobs is a very good fighter. He's a likeable fighter. He's got an excellent story. Obviously, the fact he's recovered from illness to fight at these heights. And he's an entertaining fighter to watch. You know, he fights at more of a fast pace than Quillin. He throws more punches than Quillin. He likes to get into the inside. And, you know, he's got a high knockout ratio because of the style he brings to the equation, rather than Peter Quillin, who maybe has the power from range, you know. I guess you could say that Quillin isn't the best finisher when he hurts someone. We've seen fights like the Hassan and Dam Jickham fight, where Quillin destroyed Hassan, but didn't finish him. You know, Danny Jacobs is maybe more the kind of guy who's going to get inside and flurry on you if you're hurt. You know, Quillin's not. But for me, Danny Jacobs' big problem is that I just don't see that he's going to live with Peter Quillin's power. And I don't think this fight is more complicated than that. I'm not saying Quillin's definitely going to stop him. You know, Jacobs is a very good fighter. He's athletic. He's experienced. But I think Quillin will drop him, and drop him heavily, and maybe drop him heavily several times. And if he doesn't stop him, I think that Quillin's going to be able to open up such a points advantage due to the knockdowns he's going to create, that it's going to be a one-sided fight. And I just don't see Danny Jacobs necessarily having the skill to outbox Quillin. I mean, we all know what happened with Danny Jacobs' Dmitry Pirog fight. Was it too early? Could it be forgiven? Possibly. But what can't be forgiven is what happened to Danny Jacobs last time out. You know, when he fought Sergio Mora. I mean, Sergio Mora, he's an experienced operator. You know, I like Sergio. I remember him from the Contender days. But this guy couldn't crack an egg, and he dropped Danny Jacobs heavily in that fight. I mean, if Peter Quillin was able to hit Danny Jacobs with that fight, Danny Jacobs' head would be in the 4th row. You know, Quillin is a huge puncher. Mora is a very light-fisted guy, and Mora dropped him very heavily. And I just think Danny Jacobs' eagerness and the fact that he comes forward and can be defensively irresponsible is really going to play into the advanced punching game of Quillin. You know, Danny Jacobs, he does hit hard, but he's performed at a lower level than Quillin. He has. And don't forget, like, fights like the Caleb Truex fight, where that fight goes right to the end, you know, or goes substantially into the fight. And there are other examples of that as well. You know, Peter Quillin, People question his heart, people question his dedication, but he's not an easy guy to go over and blow out. I think he's going to have a size advantage, I think he's going to have a technical advantage, and I think he's going to have a power advantage, which is going to make Danny Jacobs nervous and possibly affect Danny Jacobs' style in this fight. For me, this is going to be easy work for Peter Quillin, easy work. I'm seeing some prices from the bookmakers at 4 to 6 for Peter Quillin, and let me say I am inclined to play at those prices. I'm going to probably be taking that up tomorrow, because for me this is a fight where there's a discrepancy here. This is going to be easier work for Peter Quillin in my opinion. He's just the superior boxer. Jacobs is there to be hit, and I don't think Jacobs is going to live with the superior Quillin power. Let me know your thoughts on this fight. Let me also say it's an underrated fight, this. Real top level fight. Two guys towards the top of the division. More should be made of this fight. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight, and genuinely represents a tight competitive matchup in a middleweight division. Thanks for watching. Give me your predictions. Let me know your thoughts. Many thanks for watching.